Welcome to the Learn and Talk English podcast.
Yes, welcome. We are really glad you're listening today.
We really are. Here at the Learn and Talk English channel, we provide high-quality educational material to help you improve your English step by step.
Exactly, step by step. We believe that learning should be, engaging and actually useful for your real life.
Right. And for you, the listener, we want to make sure this is easy to follow. So throughout this entire lesson, we are going to speak very slowly.
Yes, very slowly and very clearly.
And we will frequently repeat important sentences. We will repeat vocabulary words and phrases so that you can practice them with us.
Because repetition is, well, it's how you remember. We are here to act as your English teachers today.
That's right. And today we are discussing something that causes, a lot of anxiety for almost everyone in the world.
Oh, definitely.
We are talking about the job interview, specifically mastering a job interview when English is not your first language.
Yeah, that is a huge challenge. It's a high pressure situation, right?
It really is. I mean, you are sitting across from a stranger. You are trying to remember vocabulary. You are trying to prove your value.
And it can feel completely overwhelming.
Right. Overwhelming. But why does it feel so scary?
Well, it feels overwhelming because of how our brains are wired. I mean, when we sit in a small room across from someone who has power over the future, our brain actually triggers a fight or flight response.
Fight or flight, like a physical panic.
Exactly. Your heart beats faster, your palms sweat, you might, forget words that you use every single day in English.
Well, that happens all the time. You know a word, but in the interview, your mind just goes blank.
Yeah, it goes totally blank. But what we are going to do in this conversation is completely demystify the process.
We're going to make it simple.
Yes. We are going to break down the psychology of the interview because, and this is so important, an interview is not actually a test of perfect English grammar.
Wait, really? It's not a grammar test?
No, not at all. It is a test of connection. It's about how you communicate your confidence in your character.
That is a crucial distinction. Let's repeat that for the listener. It is not a grammar test. It is a test of connection.
Yes. So even if you, the listener, make a small mistake with a verb tense, it does not mean you lose the job.
Right. If you say, I go instead of I went, the world doesn't end.
Exactly. What matters is the message you are sending. And the very first message you send usually comes from one specific, famous question.
Oh, I know this one. It is the question that opens almost every job interview globally.
Yes, it is.
The interviewer looks at you and says, tell me about yourself.
Tell me about yourself. It is such an open question, and that is exactly why it causes so much panic.
It's like a blank canvas.
It is. Many people hear that question and they immediately start reciting their entire life story.
Right. They say, I was born in a small town and I have 3 brothers.
Yeah, or what they like to eat for breakfast or what they do on the weekends. But the interviewer does not actually want a biography.
They don't want a biography.
No, they are asking a strategic question to see how you organize information.
I always like to think of this question through an analogy. Think about a movie trailer.
Oh, I love that comparison.
Right. When a new movie is coming to theaters, they release a 2-minute trailer. That trailer does not show you the boring parts of the movie.
No, nobody wants to watch the main character sleeping.
Exactly. It does not show them sleeping or eating breakfast or, just waiting for a bus.
Right.
The trailer takes only the absolute best, most exciting, and most relevant parts of the 2-hour film and puts them together. The goal of the trailer is simple. It is to make the audience want to see more.
And that is exactly how you should treat. Tell me about yourself. You are creating a professional movie trailer.
A professional movie trailer.
Yeah.
So you only want to highlight the experiences and skills that are relevant to this specific job.
Yes. And to help organize this trailer, there is a very reliable structure we use. We call it the present, past, future formula.
Present, past, future. Let's speak very slowly here.
Yes. It organizes your professional life into a timeline that is very easy for the interviewer's brain to follow.
Okay, let's walk through that structure carefully. The present, past, future formula. It starts with the present.
Yeah.
What does that look like in practice?
So starting with the present, means anchoring the interviewer in who you are right now.
Hmm.
It answers their most urgent curiosity.
Who are you right now? Okay.
You state your current role or your current situation. For example, you might say, I am currently working as a customer service assistant.
Let me repeat that slowly for our listener to practice. I am currently working as a customer service assistant.
Perfect. You are establishing your current professional identity.
And the word currently is so useful here. Right? It means right now, at this moment.
Exactly. And after we establish the present, we move backward to the past.
Okay, so present, then past.
Yes, the past provides your foundation. It shows the journey of how you built your skills. But remember the movie trailer analogy. Do not go back to your childhood.
Right. No stories about being 10 years old.
No. Go back to your most recent relevant experience. You could say, before this, I worked as a cashier where I learned how to handle fast-paced environments.
Let's repeat the beginning of that. Before this, I worked as a cashier.
Yes. Or if you're coming from university, you might say, I recently graduated with a degree in business administration.
Okay, so we have the present and the past. I am currently working as a customer service assistant. Before this, I worked as a cashier. Then we arrive at the future.
Right, the future.
This seems like the most important part because it connects your story to their company.
Exactly. The future is your goal. It is the reason you are sitting in that chair. Why do you want this specific job?
You have to show enthusiasm, right? Forward momentum.
You do. You conclude your answer by saying something like, I am excited about this opportunity because I want to bring my communication skills to a larger team.
Let me highlight a phrase there. I am excited about this opportunity because, let's ask the listener to repeat that. I am excited about this opportunity because.
That is incredibly positive and professional. When we put the whole present, past, future formula together, it creates a very natural narrative.
Let's listen to how smooth this sounds altogether. I am currently working as a customer service assistant. Before this, I worked as a cashier, where I learned how to communicate with customers. I am excited about this job because I want to bring those communication skills to your team.
It works so beautifully. And it works because it shows organization. If you speak in a structured way, the interviewer subconsciously assumes that you will also work in a structured way.
But I want to pause here and ask a practical question.
Sure.
The present past future formula is great if you have a few years of experience and you feel comfortable in English. But what if the listener is an absolute beginner in English?
That's a very fair question.
Or what if the pressure is just too high and that formula feels too complicated to remember in the moment? Is there a simpler safety net?
Yes, absolutely. For foundational English learners or, anyone feeling extreme anxiety, we have an alternative 5-step structure.
A 5-step structure.
It removes the complex timeline and focuses purely on basic, clear information. The 5 steps are greeting, name, profession, experience, and goal.
Let me repeat those clearly. Greeting, name, profession, experience, goal. Let's break those down into simple sentences that listeners can practice.
Step 1 is the greeting. A simple professional hello or good morning.
Very easy. Good morning.
Step 2 is your name. My name is David.
My name is David.
Step 3 is your profession or identity. I am a graphic designer.
I am a graphic designer. Okay.
Step 4 is your experience. I have 3 years of experience.
I have 3 years of experience.
And step 5 is your goal. I want to work here because I love your company's designs.
I want to work here because I love your company's designs. Let me put that all together so listeners can hear the rhythm of it.
Please do.
Good morning. My name is David. I am a graphic designer. I have 3 years of experience. I want to work here because I love your company's designs.
It is simple, yes, but it is flawless English. And frankly, many interviewers prefer a short, clear answer over a long, confusing one.
They absolutely do. Clear communication is always better than complex communication that gets, tangled up.
Right. However, there is a word in that formula that often causes panic.
Which word?
The word is experience.
Yes.
Experience.
Many listeners might be thinking, but I don't have 3 years of experience. I'm a student. I just finished high school. I've never had a paying job.
That is a massive concern. How does someone who has zero formal work experience answer, "Tell me about yourself," without sounding, well, unqualified?
Yeah.
If they cannot say, "I have experience," what do they say?
This requires a shift in perspective. Experience does not only mean jobs where I received a paycheck.
It doesn't.
No. Experience is about demonstrating skills. If you are a student, your education is your
Oh,
experience.
that makes sense. If you volunteered to help organize a local festival, that is project management experience. If you play on a sports team, well, that is teamwork experience. You just have to frame it correctly.
So instead of apologizing for having no experience, you focus on your identity as a learner.
Exactly. Never apologize for being a beginner. You can proudly say, "I am a student. I study engineering. I am very hardworking and I want to learn."
Let's repeat that last sentence. I want to learn. I really want to emphasize how powerful that sentence is. I want to learn.
It's very powerful.
If I am hiring someone for an entry-level position, I do not expect them to know everything. But if they look me in the eye and say, I want to learn, that shows great energy. It shows a growth mindset.
A growth mindset is exactly what managers are looking for. They can teach you how to use the computer software, they can teach you where the files are kept,
Yeah,
but they cannot teach you to have a curious, eager attitude.
right. You either have the energy or you don't.
Exactly. When you say, "I want to learn," you are promising them that you will be a valuable investment for their time.
Now, speaking of things managers want to hear, let's talk about the trap.
Ah, the trap.
The dangerous question that almost always follows the introduction. The interviewer leans forward and asks, what is your biggest weakness?
Yes.
This question feels like a trick. I mean, if you are too honest, you might lose the job. But if you give a fake answer, they will see right through it.
It is the most psychological question in the interview. For a long time, people were taught to give fake weaknesses.
Like what?
They were taught to say things like, "My biggest weakness is that I work too hard," or "My biggest weakness is that I am a perfectionist."
Right, because saying I am a perfectionist is just a compliment dressed up in a Halloween costume.
Exactly. It is trying to make a positive look like a negative. Interviewers hate these answers today. They sound rehearsed, and worse, they show a lack of self-awareness.
So if we cannot use fake weaknesses, and we certainly cannot say my weakness is that I am lazy and I hate waking up early.
Definitely do not say that.
Right. So how do we navigate this? What is the structure here?
The secret is to share a genuine but small professional weakness and then immediately explain the action you are taking to fix it.
Okay, identify the flaw plus your strategy for improvement.
Exactly. You are showing them that you are self-aware enough to know your limits and proactive enough to solve your own problems.
Can you give me an example of how that sounds in a real conversation in English?
Sure. A very common acceptable weakness is public speaking. Many talented people are terrified of speaking to large groups.
Yes, very true.
You could say, "In the past, I used to be nervous speaking in public, but I know this is important, so I recently joined a local speaking club and I am practicing and improving."
Let me repeat that slowly. I used to be nervous speaking in public, but I am practicing and improving.
Yeah,
That is a brilliant structure.
it really is.
You admit a real human flaw, but the last thing the interviewer hears is the word improving. You leave them with a positive image of your growth.
Precisely. You are proving that a weakness is not a permanent state for you. It is just a problem you are currently solving.
That transitions us perfectly into discussing the vocabulary of success.
The vocabulary is so important.
Once we have moved past the introduction and the tricky questions, the interview becomes a conversation about character. The words you choose to describe yourself matter immensely.
Yes, the adjectives you use in an interview act as labels. If you choose strong, precise, positive adjectives, you attach those qualities to your personal brand in the interviewer's mind.
So we need to teach our listeners the right adjectives. Let's explore some of the most powerful English words, starting with how you describe your work ethic meaning, how you approach the actual labor of your job.
Great. The foundation of a good work ethic usually starts with time. What is the best word to describe someone who respects the clock?
The professional term is punctual.
Punctual.
It simply means arriving on time or slightly early consistently. It sounds like a basic expectation, but punctuality communicates an enormous amount of respect.
Why do bosses love that word so much?
Well, when you are punctual, you're telling the company, I value your time as much as I value my own.
You could use this by simply stating, I am a very punctual person. I am always on time. Let's have the listener repeat that. I am a very punctual person.
But there's a cultural element here, isn't there? The concept of on time varies wildly depending on where you are in the world.
That is a fascinating point. In some cultures, arriving 15 minutes after the agreed time is still considered perfectly on time. It is a more fluid relationship-based view of time.
Right.
But in Western corporate cultures, like in the US, the UK, or Canada, time is viewed as a strict resource. Punctual in an English interview usually means arriving 5 minutes early. If you are exactly on time, you are almost late.
That is a great cultural nuance to keep in mind. So punctual means early. Now, what about the effort you put in once you actually arrive? If an interviewer asks, why should we hire you over someone else?
Mhm.
What is a powerful, simple adjective to use?
You cannot go wrong with hardworking or dedicated.
Hardworking.
If you want a great short sentence to remember, simply look them in the eye and say, I am a hard worker.
I am a hard worker. Let's repeat that. I am a hard worker.
It is one of the most classic phrases in the English language because it speaks directly to the primary anxiety of every boss. Will this person actually do the job when things get difficult? Saying, I am a hard worker, directly answers that anxiety.
It is undeniably strong. Now, let's look at a word that is a bit more advanced, specifically for jobs that require immense focus. Things like accounting, programming, or medical work.
For those fields, the ideal adjective is detail-oriented, or you could say methodical.
Detail-oriented. Let's practice that. Detail-oriented.
Being detail-oriented means you have a specific mental focus on the small pieces of a larger puzzle. You notice the tiny errors that other people miss.
In business, small mistakes can cost thousands of dollars.
Exactly. A detail-oriented employee is essentially an insurance policy against expensive mistakes.
So you could say, I am very detail-oriented. I always check my work twice. That is a phrase that will make any manager feel safe.
It definitely will.
So we have covered work ethic, how you handle the tasks. Punctual, hardworking, detail-oriented. But jobs are rarely just tasks. They usually involve working with other humans.
Yes, very true.
How do we describe our attitude and how we interact with a team?
The first word for your attitude is confident. Confidence means believing in yourself.
Believing in your own capability. But it does not mean arrogance, right?
No, not at all. Arrogance is thinking you are better than everyone else. Confidence is simply knowing your own value and not being afraid to share your ideas.
And confidence is contagious. If you say, I am confident in my skills, the interviewer will naturally start to feel confident in your skills too. Let's repeat that. I am confident in my skills.
But confidence needs to be balanced. You do not want to seem like someone who will fight with the rest of the team to prove how smart you are.
Precisely. That is why a great companion word to confident is easygoing.
Easygoing.
Being easygoing means you are relaxed and easy to get along with. You are adaptable and calm. You do not get angry when plans change. You do not create unnecessary drama.
In a high-stress corporate environment, an easygoing employee is a breath of fresh air. They lower the stress level of the entire office.
I am an easygoing person. I work well with everyone. Let's practice that. I am an easygoing person. That is a highly attractive quality.
It really is.
But there is another one that I see on almost every job description today. Companies are always asking for someone who is proactive. What is the psychology behind being proactive?
Proactive is the opposite of reactive. A reactive person waits for a problem to happen and then they react to it.
Okay, so they wait to be told what to do.
Yes, a proactive person does things without being told. They look into the future, anticipate the problem, and solve it before it ever happens.
That makes sense.
If a reactive person sees a dirty floor, they wait for the manager to say, please clean the floor. A proactive person just cleans it.
Managers love proactive people because it removes the mental burden from the manager. They do not have to micromanage you. You could say, I'm a proactive worker. If I see a problem, I try to solve it.
That sentence is music to a hiring manager's ears. Let's repeat it. I'm a proactive worker.
But wait, I have to challenge this whole approach.
Oh,
If I just sit there in the interview and say, I am easygoing, I am punctual, I am detail-oriented,
oh.
I am a proactive hard worker. I mean, I sound like a robot reading a dictionary.
Yes, you do.
It sounds entirely hollow. Anyone can say those words.
Mm.
How do we make this sound natural? How do you actually make the interviewer believe them?
You have hit on the biggest mistake candidates make. They list adjectives without providing evidence. In an interview, words mean nothing without proof.
So how do you prove it?
The way you prove an adjective is true is by telling a structured story. You provide clear examples. And in the professional world, the gold standard for telling these stories is called the STAR method. STAR.
The STAR method. It stands for situation, task, action, result. For an English learner, trying to remember a four-part acronym during a stressful interview sounds like a recipe for panic. Can we simplify the philosophy behind the STAR method in simple English?
Yes, let us strip away the jargon. The core philosophy of the STAR method is simply past behavior predicts future behavior.
Past behavior predicts future behavior.
Exactly. If you want to prove you are a good problem solver, you do not talk about a hypothetical future. You tell a short, factual story about a time you solved a problem in the past.
So instead of just saying, I am good at solving problems, you tell a mini story. Can you give me an example of how to build a STAR story using simple, clear English?
Let us imagine you were applying for a retail job, working in a store. First, you set the scene, the situation, and task. You say, at my last job, a customer was upset.
At my last job, a customer was upset. Okay.
Then, you describe your specific action. I listened to them and I fixed the problem.
I listened to them and I fixed the problem.
Finally, you reveal the result. The customer smiled and said, thank you.
Let us review that narrative flow. At my last job, a customer was upset. I listened, I fixed the problem, and the customer smiled. It is essentially a three-sentence play. You have the conflict, the hero's action, and the happy ending.
And it is so much more memorable than just saying, I have good customer service skills.
Exactly. Human beings are wired for storytelling. Our brains remember narratives far better than we remember lists of facts. When you tell a STAR story, the interviewer can visually imagine you doing the job successfully.
Let us practice applying this to specific roles, using simple, tailored phrases. Let's role play.
Good idea. Let's practice phrasing for different jobs.
If someone is applying to be a nurse or a healthcare worker, what is a core message they should deliver?
A healthcare worker needs to balance technical precision with deep empathy. A beautiful, simple phrase to use is, I am very organized and I care about my patients. Let's repeat that. I am very organized and I care about my patients. It shows the mind and the heart.
What about a mechanical job? A mechanic, an electrician, a carpenter?
For those trades, the focus is on practical physical competence. You can use a fantastic English idiom. You can say, I am good with my hands.
Good with my hands. Let's pause on that idiom because it is so natural to say in English.
Yes, let's explain it clearly. Being good with your hands does not mean your hands look nice. It means you possess physical skill. You know how to use tools, manipulate materials, and build or repair things. It is the perfect phrase for any manual trade. I am good with my hands.
Let us do one more role play. What about the hospitality industry, applying to be a waiter or a waitress?
Hospitality is all about pace and personality. A restaurant manager wants someone who will not panic when the restaurant is full. So the candidate could say, I'm very fast and I always smile. Let's practice that. I am very fast and I always smile.
That is exactly what a restaurant needs. It is simple, accurate, and reassuring.
Which actually leads us to a completely different type of communication. We have spent all this time talking about the words coming out of your mouth, but you can have the perfect vocabulary, use the STAR method beautifully, and still fail the interview if your body is telling a completely different story than your words.
That is the hard truth. We are moving into the realm of nonverbal communication. Body language. It is the silent language. You are communicating even when your mouth is closed.
Think of it like watching a television show with the volume turned all the way down to zero.
That's a great analogy.
Even without hearing a single line of dialogue, you instinctively know what the characters are feeling. You can still tell who is confident, who is scared, and who is friendly just by how they move.
And hiring managers are subconsciously watching your silent television show the entire time. In fact, research into the psychology of interviews reveals a staggering statistic. Hiring managers actually care about body language like posture, clothes, eye contact, tone of voice, about 16% more than the candidate realizes.
Wait, 16% more.
Yes.
That implies that candidates are spending 99% of their time memorizing vocabulary and practicing verb tenses and completely ignoring the physical signals they're sending.
That is exactly what happens. We get so trapped in our heads, translating English words, that our bodies freeze. But the interviewer is reading our physical symbols. In human psychology, we rely heavily on symbolism.
Let's break down the word symbolism.
A firm handshake is a symbol. It symbolizes confidence, trust, and readiness.
And conversely, looking down at the floor is a symbol. It symbolizes submission or fear. Slouching in your chair symbolizes a lack of energy.
Yes. Sitting up straight, leaning slightly forward, that symbolizes active engagement. It tells the speaker, I am interested in what you are saying.
But I have to bring up a major complication here. We are talking about English learners, which means we are often talking about international candidates. Body language is not a universal language. It is highly cultural.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
mean, in many cultures, maintaining direct, unblinking eye contact with a senior manager is considered incredibly arrogant or rude. In some cultures, lowering your eyes is a sign of profound respect. How do you navigate that in an international English interview?
This is one of the most difficult challenges for international candidates. It requires a high-level skill known as cultural code switching.
Cultural code switching. That sounds fascinating. What exactly are we switching?
Code switching means adapting your behavior to align with the social rules of the country or company you are interviewing for. You are not changing your core identity, you are simply using a different behavioral code to communicate effectively.
So you have to learn the rules of their culture.
Yes, in Western corporate cultures like the United States and the UK, making steady eye contact and shaking hands are expected. If you do not look them in the eye, they do not think you are showing respect. They think you are hiding something.
So even if your internal instinct, based on your upbringing, is telling you to look down to be polite, you have to consciously override that instinct. You have to switch codes and maintain that steady eye contact because you are playing by the rules of their cultural environment.
Precisely. You must view their body language rules the same way you view their vocabulary rules. You are learning English words, and you must also learn Western corporate physical cues. Shake the hand firmly, maintain eye contact, smile openly.
Now, how does all of this translate to the modern world? Since the shift to remote work, millions of interviews now happen on virtual platforms, video calls like Zoom or Skype. How do you act on a video call?
Virtual interviews create a very strange psychological environment. The most critical failure people make on video calls is regarding eye contact.
It is the camera lens versus the screen problem. Human instinct tells you to look at the face of the interviewer on your screen. But if you look at their face on your screen, the angle of your webcam makes it look like you were staring downward, avoiding their eyes.
Exactly. To make the interviewer feel like you are looking them in the eye, you have to stare directly into the tiny black hole of the camera lens at the top of your device. Look directly at the camera, not the screen.
It feels unnatural.
It does. You are depriving yourself of their facial feedback, but to them, you appear highly focused and confident.
That is a phenomenal tip. Look at the lens, not the face. To help with this, I always suggest putting a bright little sticky note right next to the camera lens to draw your eye upward. What else matters in the virtual space?
Make sure you have good lighting. Do not sit with a bright window behind you or you will become a dark shadow. You want the light source facing you. And speaking of expressions, you need to understand that video cameras flatten the image.
So a small, polite smile might not even register on their screen.
Right. In a virtual interview, you have to slightly exaggerate your positive facial expressions because the camera makes it harder for the boss to read your emotions. You have to nod your head a little more clearly. You have to smile a little wider.
So, to summarize the virtual environment, eye contact means looking at the camera lens. Lighting must be in front of you, and you must slightly exaggerate your positive expressions. This brings us to the final and perhaps most crucial section of our lesson. We have talked about your history, your vocabulary, and your body language, but all of this is ultimately trying to prove one central characteristic. There is one magic word that every single employer in the world is desperately searching for.
The word is reliable. Let me spell that out slowly. Reliable. Reliable.
Reliable. Let us explore the deep meaning of this word. It is more than just being a good worker. Let's define reliability slowly.
To be reliable means people can depend on you. They trust you to do what you say you will do. If a manager hires a reliable employee, the manager buys themselves peace of mind.
They don't have to worry.
Exactly. They know that if they assign you a task, they do not have to check on you 5 times. They trust you.
Companies lose billions of dollars globally every year due to unreliable employees, missed deadlines, lost clients. So if you can prove you are reliable, you instantly become highly valuable. But how do you prove reliability before you even get the job? We've broken this down into 3 core rules. Let's look at Rule 1.
Rule 1 is the most basic: showing up. Reliability starts with showing up on time. It means consistently arriving, ready to work.
But how do we ensure we do that, especially for the interview itself?
You must check the company policy and practice your travel to the interview or job beforehand so you know how long it takes.
That's very actionable advice. If you take the bus 2 days before just to see how long the trip is.
Taking the friction out of your commute is a great strategy. However, we have to acknowledge reality. Life happens. Buses break down. Severe storms roll in. Being reliable does not mean being magical. It means handling crises professionally. That is rule 2. What to do if you are late.
If an emergency happens, a reactive person panics, but a reliable person follows a protocol. We have 5 steps to take if an emergency happens. Let's teach these 5 steps slowly.
Step 1. Know the rules for reporting. Who are you supposed to contact?
Step 1, know the rules.
Oh, okay. Step 2. Have important phone numbers saved in your device before you ever need them.
Step 2, save the numbers.
Step 3. Give advance notice. Call as soon as possible. 24 hours if you can, but even 1 hour is better than nothing.
Step 3, advance notice. Give them time to find a solution.
Step 4. Be honest. Do not lie about why you were late. When you lie, you break trust. When you say, "I apologize, my car broke down," you demonstrate accountability.
Step 4, be honest. And step 5,
Step 5. Have a plan to make up the lost time. Say, "I will be 30 minutes late today, but I will stay 30 minutes after my shift to finish the work."
let us run through those 5 steps one more time so our listeners can practice and remember them. 1, know the rules. 2, save the numbers. 3, give advance notice. 4, be honest. 5, have a plan to make up the time.
If you do those 5 things, an employer will actually view your emergency as proof of your excellent character.
It really does turn a negative into a positive. Now let's look at Rule 3 for reliability, finishing what you start.
Finishing what you start.
I want to push back on this idea or ask a question. Does being reliable mean saying yes to every single project and working 100 hours a week until you collapse?
No, that is a very dangerous myth. Saying yes to everything is actually the fastest path to becoming unreliable. If you take on too much, you will miss deadlines and burn out. A truly reliable person asks questions first.
So, how does an employee gracefully manage a boss's expectations?
We teach the questions you must ask in English before starting a task. When a manager hands you a new project, you should ask 3 things. First, clarify the timeline. You ask, when do you need this done?
Let's repeat that question. When do you need this done? That sets the boundary of time.
Second, clarify the objective. Ask, how do you want this to look?
Let's repeat that. How do you want this to look? This prevents you from doing 10 hours of work, only to find out the boss wanted a different format.
And third, clarify the process. Ask, who should I involve?
Who should I involve? By asking these three questions, timeline, objective, process, you prove that you are organizing the work. And having one system, like a calendar or notebook to track your work, makes you reliable, not just working endless hours.
Exactly. Use a notebook. Write things down. That is how you finish what you start.
Well, this has been a deeply insightful conversation. We've traveled from the initial anxiety of the interview all the way to the daily habits of a reliable employee. Let's review the main points.
Yes, let's review.
We discussed using the present, past, future formula for tell me about yourself. We learned to choose powerful, positive adjectives like punctual, easygoing, and reliable.
We learned to smile, look at the camera lens, and use good body language. And we learned how to prove you are reliable by showing up and communicating honestly.
As we conclude this lesson, I want to ask you for one final thought. For the listener who is facing a daunting interview tomorrow, what is a thought they can explore on their own?
I want to leave the listener with this final provocative thought. Every professional was a beginner one day. The CEO of the largest corporation in the world once sat in a chair, sweating, feeling terrified during an entry-level interview. You are stepping out of your comfort zone, and that requires immense courage.
That is very true.
I challenge you to do this today. Go to a mirror in your home, look yourself directly in the eye, and practice saying your English introduction out loud. Say, "Hello, my name is, I am a grana." Do not whisper it. Say it until you believe it. Because if you believe in your value, the interviewer will believe in it too.
Every professional was a beginner one day. That is a beautiful thought. You, the listener, have the tools, and now you just need the practice. To keep improving your English step by step, you need to keep listening to high-quality educational material.
Yes, keep listening and practicing.
We are here to guide you on the Learn and Talk English podcast. Please subscribe and like this audio so you never miss our content. And we want to hear from you directly. Leave a comment below sharing your job or your dream job using the simple sentence structures we taught today. Type out, "Hello, my name is, I am a Yui." We would love to read them.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Keep learning, stay curious, and we will see you in the next lesson.
Thank you, everyone. Keep practicing, and goodbye.